This is another shipped-in VCR. This is the 5th one that I received in this shipment of 5. This time it's a Sony Super VHS, an SLVR1000, and it has at least 4 different things wrong with it, all mechanical. We're going to give this one a tune-up, give it a lubrication, clean things up, and replace some broken parts. This one's one that you can do yourself once you know the process. It's really not that difficult to get into these machines, and they're actually a very good machine. This time I've got an SLVR1000, and I don't know what this one's doing. I guess we'll pull it apart and just give it the full inspection before proceeding. Of course, these ones have the, oh look, there's screws missing from it already. It only has 2 screws holding the cover down. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Obviously this one has been into before. Yeah. Well, I think that about sums it up. It's got a broken blue gear. I believe I do have one around here. I'm gonna go find it and then we'll change it. So I do have one blue gear left. This is my last blue gear I've got in stock. I'll have to get some more. I go through a fair number of these. They are still available, at least they were last time I checked. So let's get working on this one to change this one out. So first things first, I need to remove the mechanism. So to start, I'll remove the front cover. Cover comes off just like that. Next, I need to remove the cassette basket assembly. There's 4 screws for this, 2 in the front and 2 at the back here. Next is the chassis. I don't know why this screwdriver is just not holding up for picking up screws anymore. And then I got to undo these 2 clips over here, which have never been undone because they still have the original tape on them that holds them in place. So we'll rip off the tape. Unfortunately, that's not the part that's holding it in place. It's down here. Gotta get this piece out. we go. Those two plugs open. And now I should be able to lift the chassis out. Get everything else undone. Bend this clip up out of the way so it's not going to catch on anything, and then I can just lift this entire transport up to reveal the broken blue gear, or what remains of it. Remove the screws, hold this circuit board in place, unplug the drum motor, unplug the capstan motor over here, and there's the busted blue gear. Next, we'll note that everything is correctly timed in the home position. We're going to remove the 3 cut washers. Retaining plate, main cam, and now we can replace the broken gear. I do have to remove the gears here, so I can remove these washers down here that hold the guides in place, or at least this one guide. This one has to come off for sure. Yeah, I got a funny story to tell you guys. Something I witnessed happened yesterday. I don't know if I should share this or not, but involved driving. I wouldn't say road. Yeah, it was road rage. Although it happened in a parking lot, but I don't know if I should say. I don't know if I should tell this. I don't know if I should tell you guys or not. It was. I mean, I felt about 2 feet tall there for a minute. No, 2 inches tall. Because I kind of stuck my foot in my mouth, but I think it was justified, but maybe it wasn't justified. I'll tell you guys. Okay, so I'm sitting at a restaurant, went to have lunch, and I'm sitting down, and this guy rolls up in a wheelchair accessible minivan, and he remotely controls his door, and he rolls in, and proceeds to go up to the counter. And in the process, another guy shows up and parks in the adjacent handicap stall next to the fellow in the wheelchair. There's a painted section in between. And this guy rolls up in his Tesla. Gotta love it when it happens to somebody driving a Tesla. And a guy gets out, and he proceeds to walk away. Goes off to do his business somewhere else. Guy in the wheelchair, nice big electric wheelchair, comes out, gets back to his minivan, and sees that his access is blocked because this fellow's parked his Tesla, and he's parked it about, I'm going to say about 6 inches over the line. He was over the line. So the guy rolls out his access ramp and proceeds to try to get into his minivan, and in the process, well, let's just say that the Tesla's going to need some extensive work done, body work done to fix the door. And the guy just gets in his minivan and away he goes, off to the races, as they say. Tesla guy comes back, and he comes into the restaurant, and of course I saw the whole thing. I wasn't filming it or anything because my fingers were kind of greasy, so I don't touch my phone when I've been eating. Guy comes in and asks if anybody saw what happened. So I said, yeah. I said, guy in a wheelchair hit your truck as he's trying to get in. I said, maybe you should think twice about parking in a handicap stall. I didn't know this guy was handicapped because he had a handicap sign, but I couldn't see it because it was blocked from view, right? All I could see was what was happening from my vantage point. So the guy pulls up his pant leg and he's got a prosthetic leg. I felt like I asked for about a few minutes there. I said, oh, sorry, I had no idea. And I said, still, you should learn how to park. Expensive lesson, I guess, for this guy, because I think that repair on his car would be kind of costly. Well, basically, have it done on his insurance, I'm sure, and then the rest of us will be paying for that. But anyway, that was my little excitement for the day yesterday. It goes back on like that. Get the next guide back in here. I guess there's a moral to the story. Don't block their wheelchair ramp. Because these guys that have got these vans that need access, they need a little bit of clearance. So if you're going to block the ramp and prevent them from getting into their vehicle, well, expect that you might get damaged. Your car might get damaged. Okay, that piece goes on there. We'll time them together so that both of these are facing at each other. That's the correct way, so that they both go up and hit the end zone at exactly the same time. And when I bring them back down, make sure that the two arrows line up at each other, which they are not quite yet. I'll show you the marks on here, the timing marks. These are our timing marks here. You'll see two little arrows pointing at each other, but more importantly, these holes line up with the holes in the chassis. There's one there, and the other one's over here. That is correctly timed, and that has to be like that. Now, when you pull this guide back, when you pull the guides back, make sure that you pull this down first. That's the back tension arm. That has to be down first. That holds that in place just like that. So now we can look at the timing of all the mechanism. So and we've done this before. I've showed you guys this before, so this is kind of nothing new, right? But you got a timing mark over here, arrows pointing at each other. These holes line up. There's a hole down there that lines up as well. There's a hole down here that lines up. So that's how you know the position is correct for the main slide cam. As you'll see through here, and you can actually put a piece of wire or something through there that'll fit. Like, I'll use a piece of solder. That'll go right through, all the way down, you see? Goes right through the chassis and it'll go right through to the bottom. So that's timed properly. Same with these two over here. They're timed correctly when you pull them back. These other pieces over here also have holes that they line up with. You can see through them. You can see through this one here, and then there's this one here, and this one over here. You got to pull that back a bit when you put the main cam on. The main cam sits on it like this, and you can see these pins through the holes. These 3 pins here will appear through those little windows. So we bring that back so that it drops in place. Time that so that those are in place, and I got to bring this other little cam back like that. So I'll pull this lever in so that all 3 of them are visible, and this will just pop into place. There we go, that's better. Just had to rock that cam a bit. Now it's all the way down. You can hear it clunk, and then you can put this piece on, and you'll see that the cut washers, or in this case they're not cut washers, they're just retainers, they will just clip right on. Now, one thing you never do on these chassis, when you've got them this far apart, you always do the mode switch. It's just a given, you've got to do it. So we loosen off this screw. This is just to hold the tension of the belt in place, or tighten it down. The spring pulls the belt to the correct tension, and then the lock screw pulls it. So you loosen that one. You'll notice that before I remove it, there's a timing mark on here. There's a hole there, it points at this arrow. That's the correct time to position. When I remove this little cam, this little lever is going to move because there's a cam on the other side there. You got to pull that back when you place that in place to get that little pin to line up with the cam. That pin there on the cam, or that lever, goes into this cam groove. Pop the switch open and see how disgusting it is. It's yeah. It's bad. It's bad. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Shine these contacts up a little bit. And then, of course, put another layer of protection on there, add a little more deoxit. Clean up those contacts at the back as well. Put a couple more drops of deoxit here. This will keep the switch lubricated for a while. And then snap the switch back together. Spin it a bit. Polish up the contacts. And then reinstall. Again, timing mark is right there. you put the other side, there's a little arrow here, it points at that corner when you're in the correct timing. You need to pull this lever over a bit so it'll drop into place. And now you'll see, if we look, that timing mark is pointing at the other one right there, you see. Throw the 2 screws back in. The other things I'm starting to see show up on these is the failure of the capstan motor bearing. Check the top side of the bearing. See if it pushes down when you push on it. See that one's got a bit of clearance on it. This is starting to go. See that? Look. What happens is this is supposed to be the improved bearing too, but they just have pieces of the top edge that have been folded over to hold the top of the bearing. And watch what happens when I push on it. Can you guys see it? Let the camera focus. Look at this. I can move that. And that should not move. Because what will happen is, as this thing continues, see what, well, this pitch roller doesn't look to be in great shape either. It does have a bunch of cracks on it. At least it's not falling apart just yet, but that'll be the next thing. The magnet on here is constantly pulling towards the metal chassis. And what's happening, what I've been finding happening on these machines is, after a number of years, the metal, the aluminum is weak or weaker, and the magnetic force is sufficient on here that constant upwards force on the capstan shaft is pushing this up a bit, and eventually it'll actually stop it from turning. So what I need to do on this is to, well, there's a couple of ways to deal with this. Probably the easiest way though is to actually remove the rotor. So we'll loosen off this screw again here so that I can remove the belt. We'll remove this little clamp because I need to get the pressure off this. I need to take the rotor out to get that magnetic force removed. So we can now remove, we don't need to take it all the way out, but we do need to remove it enough that the pressure is removed from this so that I can put some epoxy on here. Or if nothing else, try to bend the metal in a little more so that it won't push this piece up. Try to squeeze it with some pliers. See whether I can bend over the metal a little more. I mean, this is how they did it initially. They just bent over the top, that ridge on the top. It's soft metal. It doesn't take much to bend it over. I think what I'll do is I'm going to mix up some epoxy like I've done on my own. We'll fill that up with epoxy just so that it can't flex. Bend that over a little more. Try to prevent it from moving. And I'm going to put some epoxy. I'm just going to fill that top up with a little bit of epoxy. So let me go mix some up. We'll get that in there and let it seal up, and then I'll lubricate the bearings and put the rotor back in. Because this is a long ways. This is not a local. You know, this one came from Toronto, so we want to make sure that we lubricate this unit up as well. And I'll put some oil or grease into this one here, probably oil into this bearing here. It's not bad now, but they have a tendency to get stuck. So we'll lube this bearing here as well while I'm at it. The problem with these is it's aluminum and steel, right? So the reaction that sets up between the steel pin and the aluminum, over time it tends to dry up and bind. You get a chemical reaction that happens between the dissimilar metals. Got some epoxy mixed up. We'll just fill the top of this up with epoxy. Now you got to take the capstan shaft out to do this. Very important, because if you don't, you'll be gluing it in the wrong place. You want this thing as low as possible. So we're going to let this set up for a few minutes, and that'll keep this bearing in good shape for probably longer than this machine will be still in service. But speaking of road rage, there's been a fair bit of it around here lately. I saw on the news last night that they were looking for someone that, I guess, well, there's a few of them. They showed a few of them on TV. One where people were playing bumper cars on the road and chasing each other. And another one where, I guess, someone cut someone else off and words were exchanged. The passenger pulled out a gun and blew out the guy's windows in his car. So, yeah, all the fun of the big city. I thought that was only a problem south of the border, but I guess it's worked its way this way, because we're certainly seeing a lot of it lately. Okay, I'll let this thing set up, and then we'll lubricate the mechanism and lubricate that motor and this bearing here. I think what I'll do on this is I'm just going to see if I can get some oil into the bearing on this, because it is not seized up. So if I can get some lubricant down into the bearing here, will probably prevent it from seizing. The reason I'm doing this as opposed to taking it off is I don't have to realign it. I don't have to do the tape path alignment if I don't remove the nut. And since it's not seized right now, we're probably fine. I'm going to throw some lubricant oil into the top bearing here of the capstan. And some into the bottom down here with that bearing. And we'll put the capstan shaft and motor back together. I've got a couple of little washers that need to go in here as well. These are the seals to keep alcohol and whatever else is used as a cleaner out of the bearing. There's two of them here. I'm just going to get them both lined up so that I can push them in, and then I'll back it down and separate the two of them and let one go to the top and the other one stay at the bottom. Okay, they're both in there now. And now I'll just bring one down. Oops. Like that, and then push the bottom one down into its proper position, and now we just have to clean off any oil that got onto the capstan here. So it's going to grab a Q-tip, and we'll use some alcohol to clean off any excess oil that got onto the actual capstan shaft so it doesn't get on the tape and contaminate it. I'll use this for cleaning the heads first before I contaminated with oil. Okay, now we'll clean off any excess oil on the capstan shaft. Spin the capstan while I'm doing this. Alright, that's now clean. Next, put some lithium grease onto the rest of the mechanism where it needs it. Okay, time to drop the chassis back in and see if everything works. So the chassis just drops in place. Just like that. And then the retaining screws. This screwdriver is really losing its magnetic charge. It's like ridiculous. This thing used to hold screws like you wouldn't believe. There is a magnet in there. It's supposed to transfer that energy down, but man, oh man, it for the last little while, this thing's dropping more screws than it's holding. One thing that's got to come out of this is the old self-cleaning arm, because that foam pad is worn down to nothing. The pad is all deteriorated, as you can see. Now, just looking at the news, looks like Greece is going backwards in the world. They're going to a 6-day work week. The rest of us are working towards a 4-day week, and they want to go to a 6-day week. Yeah, I'm glad I don't live over there. Snowball chance in hell I would work a 6-day week. There's a lot of us here that would love it if we could get a 3-day week. You know, like 3/12s. I work at 3/10s and a 7.5. If I was given the option to go to 3/12s and have 4 off every week, I'd do it. What I'm watching on the news, though, they want to go to a 48-hour work week. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's plugged in. I'll plug this full race head in. Should check this motor for cracks. The loading motor quite often cracks on this too. Just going to take a look at it and see if it has cracked, because if it has, we'll address this while it's here. Not all of them do, but sometimes they do. Alright, let's just take a look at this, see if there's any cracks in it. It does not. Oh, is there a crack there? Unfortunately, there is a crack. You can see it. It has cracked right there. You can spot it right there, which means that this piece needs to be secured, because otherwise it will eventually slip if it isn't already. So we got to glue this on, and that'll stop that from giving problems down the road. So my favorite units, this is not so bad. It's just, these are things you got to check while you're working on these units, because if you don't, it can come back to bite you in the ass. So remove that gear so that I can get these screws out. So this is the one that cracks, so we got to glue this back on. I put some epoxy onto the motor shaft itself. We're going to put this back in here and let it set up. See what I mean about the magnetic screwdriver tips? They're just dying. Barely pick anything up with it. we go. Okay, I'm going to let that set up for a few minutes. We'll push this clip back on. Clean the end of my screwdriver first before I end up with epoxy all over the end of it, having it harden up and then make the screwdriver useless. Okay, pop that back in. Yeah, that should fix that. 2 holes, you can see through them. That's the correct position. And then this just pops back on. It just snaps on. Like that, and that's how that goes back together. Just snaps on with those clips. 1 clip there, 1 clip there, and 2 clips over here. That's what holds that together. Alright, now time to reinstall the cassette housing. Before I do that, I'll plug these plugs in. It's just easier to do that before the basket's put in place. These 2 clips have to go in. One there, and the other one over in the front here. Okay, time to power this unit up and see if it works. What, is there more wrong with it than this? What the hell? No power. This has got a power supply problem as well. What the? Well, don't I feel like that hole. Bench power's not on. I moved my light to the other side of the bench just to give myself a little more room on this side, and my light was always powered up with the bench power, and I kind of plugged straight up. Why the hell is this thing not turning on? And I looked, and it's like, oh, bench power's not on. Well, that might help, because the complaint never was that the thing didn't power up. Like, what the hell is going on? The bench power was off. That's why it wasn't working. Things kind of don't work if they don't have power, right? So let's plug in the audio outputs here. Video output. One of those, doesn't matter. I guess it might help if I plug it to the right. And turn on the monitor and load up a tape and see what happens. Yeah, it's just not plugged in right. That might not be plugged in correctly. I don't see a picture. Either that or the heads are dirty. One of the two. But might be clogged heads. Oh, no. There we go. That's better. Well, tape's at the end. I'll just try another tape. that part works. And there it is, it's playing back perfect. The reasons I moved the light was so you get a better shot of the TV. I don't hear much in the way of sound. What's going on with the sound? Let's try another tape. Oh, that's better. It just wasn't tracked up right. Yeah, there's just the natural sound on this tape. Should grab one of my other tapes. What have I got handy here? Oh yeah, how about Titanic? Let's throw in the Titanic. Let's raise the Titanic. I'm sure if I show 15 seconds of that, I can't show 15 seconds of that. I'm sure if I show 5 seconds of it, it's probably okay. If I show 15 seconds, James Cameron might have something to say about that.
Seeing her coming out of the darkness like a ghost ship.
Oh, that camera. I hated that camera. I absolutely hated that piece of junk cannon. So there we go. It's working. A great movie. My grandfather actually was one of the Irishmen that built the Titanic. That's a little fun fact. And I went to crack the joke. That's because it sank. And my grandmother damn near knocked me into tomorrow for making the joke like that. I never met my grandfather. He was gone long before I was born. But yeah, he was in fact what they call a caulker. He operated a big rivet gun on the construction of that steamship that hit an iceberg. Anyway, this one is working. Forward search works. Reverse search works. Everything works. This is another great old VCR. If you're looking for a VCR for archiving, this is one of the best machines I think you can find. Is this one, SLVR1000 or the SVO2000. Those two machines I think are probably one of the best machines you're going to find. They're modern, they're reliable. Other than the blue gear, which breaks on a lot of them, that's a common fault. And the cracking of the loading motor collar. Other than those faults, these machines here are really reliable and they have a great picture. So if you can snag one for a good price and you're looking for a machine for archiving video, this is the one to do it with. Let me grab an SVHS tape. We'll take a look at the SVHS quality. It looks good. It looks good. Anyway, that's it. This one's done. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.